Hi, good day. Welcome to Computing with Vadim. As I made mentioned earlier in my introduction video that we will be tackling computing under each topic. And for the first topic we will work with is the generation of computers. That is computers or computer generation, the hierarchy of computers, how they started and how they've got into. We start with what generation or what generation is about. We equally tell a little story about generations or each generations, and then we look at their futures and how technology has advanced in each generations and what particularly each generation was being built on. Stay calm with Vadim. Let's walk through this one together, and all of us will get the understanding of computing. Thank you very much for your time. Stay calm. Hi, welcome back to chapter 1 of Computing with Vadim. Today we will be discussing computer generations. So, computer generations. As I made known to all of us in the introduction video earlier, look at what is computer generation about. So, the generation of computers refers to the progression of computer technology over time, marked by key advancements in hardware and software, meaning that both the computer was being transformed in its hardware, that is how it looks like, and the software, that is how its processing power has been increased over time, that is the hierarchy. These advancements are divided into 5 generations, each defined by improvements in processing power. That is how fast these computers or these generations can process information or perform tasks that has been allocated or has been given to them, including its size and efficiency and the overall capability. That is what it can do, its capability, and then how many information, how many tasks can it complete at second or what minute. Starting with the earlier vacuum tubes. That is, the first computer was being built on vacuum tubes based computers. So that means that the first computers were being based on vacuum tubes. And new generations, and each new generation has introduced faster. That is, it has been introduced as time goes on, as the generation keep on advancing. There has been a new increase in its processing and that of its capabilities, more powerful and then more efficient systems, meaning that they were being made more powerful because you know that whenever you start something new, it's not all that accurate as how it goes up with it, and then you get experience to further more on that. So over time, computers has become smaller and then are accessible, meaning they have become smaller. That is, they've now reduced computer sizes to that of we have the wrist watches, the smart watches. That is, we have the rings that can be used for communication and all those stuff. We have the virtual reality machines that have also been become smaller in size. The capability of handling increased and complex tasks, meaning that they were able to, or as time goes on and their system is being upgraded, they are able to perform complex tasks at just immediate time frame. This impacted how we live. That means that this evaluation has greatly impacted how we live, meaning that nowadays all of us can testify to it, is that we can now carry computers in our bags, just on our laps, and then we'll be able to use it as compared to the first generation. So this means that interactive with technology. So we are able to interact with technology day. Then we have that of the IC, the integrated circuits, to be the third generation of computers. So we can see that they are reducing over time, and we can equally see the chip that is for the fourth generation. I know most of us have ever seen this computer with the fourth generation, that is the chips. Then we have the microprocessors and that of artificial intelligence to be the fifth generation. So this is the pictures I have for you under generation of computers. Let's do something. Okay, generation of computers as a topic that we are treating. I have a story that is backing to be able to help us know more about each generation. So with the chapter 1, we talk about the giant and the loud machine of 1940 and then 1956. That is the first generation. In a time when World War has shaken the world, a new kind of intelligence or a giant was born, not of fresh, not of blood, but of wise and glowing tubes. It filled entire rooms, humming loudly as it calculates numbers faster than any human could. Meaning, these computers or this artificial intelligence or this giant could occupy a whole room and equally what calculate large numbers as it hammer loudly. This was the first generation of computers powered by vacuum tubes. So the first computers or the first generation of computers, all that we are saying is that they were built on what vacuum tubes, or they used vacuum tubes for this mode of what processing. It was slow, hot, that means it was slow and then produced a lot of heat, and then massive in size, meaning it was big, and it was what the beginning of what a new kind of what intelligence that have been built. Also, people respect its names as the ENAC and that of the EDVAC also. So this generation or these computers did not speak. That means they don't understand any language, but it listens to machine language, that is zeros and ones. Meaning that this machine cannot speak the normal language as we human beings speaks, but the only language these machines or this what we call it intelligence understands was the zeros and ones. That is the binary system. Okay, so this is a picture of the first generation of computers. As I said earlier, you can see how big it is in size, and then it have occupied the whole room. So imagine if you have this computer in your house and then you have a small room, how will you sleep? Okay, so these are some of the features of the first generation of computers. So some of the features we will talk about: the use of vacuum tubes. One, these tubes were switches or amplifiers forming the core of processing and then controls the processes. Is that okay? So this one was the core of what of processing. That was the main brain behind processing. That is one. Okay, two, we also talk about large size and weight. These machines were what very heavy, and then they were what large in number. They could occupy a whole room, and it weighed about what 30 tons, and then filled entire rooms. As I said, okay. Three, these computers input the input mode or the output method relied on punch cards and that of paper tapes for input and then output. And it also equally used what the printouts, magnetic drums, and that of tapes were used for storage. So that one was also the mode of what display and then input and also storage medium. The next one, which is the fourth one, was the limited speed and that of processing power, meaning that nowadays you cannot compare the Alienware machines to that of the 7th gen machines because their processing is not the same. So this one could only handle hundreds of instructions per second, handling one at a time, meaning that this one was processing information sequentially, starting from the first one to the other before it finished all of them. It cannot tackle all of them at once. Okay, then we also have the fifth one to be high processing or high power consumption. Sorry, high power consumption. This required anonymous electricity, meaning if you don't have effective electricity, as nowadays you have lights that are very low in voltage and all those stuff, you cannot use these machines. They were elaborate. They also needed massive elaborate cooling systems, meaning there should be a cooling system. So if your environment is hot, these computers equally produce a lot of heat, and also it could what affect your health as well. Okay, the sixth one we talk about is programming in what machine language. Programming in machine language were written in binary, that is zeros and ones, making coding what tedious and that of what error prone, meaning we were having errors whenever we tried to what program in machine language, meaning that it understood only zeros and ones. There wasn't anything like the natural language form. We also have the reliability issues. Vacuum tubes failed frequently, leading to the cost and the complexity maintenance. So reliability issues, they could fail you anytime because of their nature or how power consumption or how high power it needs for processing. Okay, high cost. Yes, these computers, look at how they look like. Their nature, how big it is, and then their price. Price were often exceeding $1 million, restricting use to government and that of large agencies, meaning that if you don't have or if you're not a government institution, you couldn't have what afford for that, or you couldn't have purchased these particular machines. Okay, so this is the end of the first generation of computers, and thank you very much for your time. If you have any question, you can ask me. Thank you for joining Computing with Vadim. This is the end of the first chapter.